Hello, and welcome to our lesson on generative AI and intellectual property. Today we will have a brief discussion on how to protect your generative AI models with patents, licensing and collaboration in the generative AI space, and how to avoid ethical pitfalls. Before we dive in, disclaimer, I'm not a lawyer, none of this is legal advice. So first, let's talk about protecting your generative AI model with patents. A patent is a legal protection that allows the owner of the patent to exclude others from making, using, selling, or even importing an invention for a limited period of time. Usually that's within 20 years of the filing. So if you have developed a unique and innovative generative model, you may be able to attain a patent on it. It's important to note that Google has been patenting some of the foundational pieces of machine learning, such as convolutions, and so there is some prior art with respect to patenting machine learning models. To obtain a patent, you will need to file a patent with the appropriate government agency. If you're located in the United States, it will be the United States Patent and Trademark Office, or it will be the European Patent Office if you are in Europe. The patent application must include a detailed description of the invention itself, as well as any drawings or diagrams that you need to show understanding. Additionally, there's a few important standards that you need to meet with your patent. These are novelty, non-obviousness, and usefulness. There is a long and storied history with showing these pieces of information, and so if you are interested, consult a lawyer. Once your patent application has been filed, it will go through the review process to determine whether it meets the necessary requirements for a patent. If it is approved, you will be granted a patent on your generative AI model, which will give you exclusive rights to the invention. Next, we will talk about licensing and collaboration. If you have developed a new model that you believe has commercial potential, you may want to consider licensing it so that others can enter into a collaboration with you, with another company, or with some individual. An example here is the collaboration between OpenAI and Microsoft with their code generation series of models powering GitHub Copilot. So the licensing process allows you to grant others the right to use your generative AI model in exchange for maybe royalties or other forms of payment. This can be a good way to monetize your invention and bring it to market without having to bear the costs yourself of production and distribution. GPUs are expensive. Collaboration, on the other hand, is slightly different and involves working with others to jointly develop and commercialize a generative AI model. This can be a good way to leverage the resources and expertise of other parties. Typically, collaboration happens when one party has a set of data that they want to generate more of, and the other party has the technical expertise to develop a generative AI model. Finally, we will discuss the ethical pitfalls of generative AI. Generative AI models have the potential to be used for both good and bad, and it is very important to consider the ethical implications of your work. For example, you may want to consider if your generative AI model could be used to perpetuate harmful biases or stereotypes, or whether it could be used to exploit or manipulate individuals. Also, there may be some unintended consequences of generative AI, such as a loss of work for certain impacted groups. There are some steps to mitigate these negative impacts. They are still evolving, and there's not one set of techniques that people subscribe to. But what you could do, for example, is what Stability AI did when they released a filter on their text-to-image generative model that prevents it from generating harmful content. The unfortunate truth is this filter was easy to bypass, and many people were able to remove the filter and still generate harmful content. There are some examples of generative AI in patent litigation. Maybe patent litigation is the wrong term here, but generative AI and litigation. So there are some class action lawsuits that are being started against generative AI technologies with respect to the training data that these models were given. In conclusion, It's important to consider who owns the intellectual property to both the training data and the model. It's important to consider whether you want to license your inventions or collaborate with another entity. And foremost, it's important to care and be careful about the ethical issues in the development and use of generative AI models.